And for more insight now, we bring in Associated Press Jets beat writer Dennis Waszak. Dennis, how you doing? Thanks for coming on this afternoon.
Hey, you got it. Anytime. How you guys doing?
We're doing all right. For listeners out there, Dennis did graduate from St. John's University, so we're glad to bring the alumni back on to radio here. And Dennis, obviously the big thing for the Jets, they were hoping that the story this week would be how they bounce back against New England, but receiver Braylon Edwards was arrested for DUI, and it's really been the major story for them. What's been the sentiment around Jets camp since Edwards has been arrested?
Well, I think most of the guys around here, the players, the coaches, they're just trying to be supportive of their teammate. They've acknowledged that he made a mistake, staying out that late, getting behind the wheel, and that sort of thing. But they know, this is a guy that is their teammate, and, they need to be behind him and stand behind him because, quite frankly, if the Jets want to get to where they say they're going to go, which is the Super Bowl, they need this guy. This is a guy that they need to have. So, they're going to let the legal process play itself out, and then go from there. There's been no change. After today, we spoke to Rex Ryan, and he said he has a pretty good idea of when and how much Braylon will play against Miami, but he won't make a final call until before kickoff Sunday night. So it sounds like he is going to play. They've already said he won't start. So, we'll see how much he does play.
And has it seemed like it's been a distraction? Darrelle Revis came out and said that the media really only hounds in and comes to the Jets when something goes wrong. Has it sort of seemed like the Jets are distracted at this point?
Well, you know what? I'll say this much. Probably it's a distraction when the locker room is open and, the media are in there and, reporters are asking them question after question, It was the same thing with Revis when he finally got here. It was, nonstop. How do you feel? Are you happy? How are you going to be when you start playing? How was practice? It was nonstop there. And, they go from that to Revis being hurt and the questions about that to, Braylon Edwards' situation. So I think when they're out on the field practicing, they're not thinking about any of that stuff. They can't. Like, that's their job. It's the same as anyone else's job. You try to put, the personal things aside and perform. And, I think that's, how it is here. I think a lot is made out of the outside distractions. This is a big distraction in terms of the off the field type thing. But I think once they get down there to Miami, I don't think they're going to be thinking much about this. Braylon Edwards will be on the field or he won't be, and that's just how it'll be.
And, speaking of Darrelle Revis, he's going to be out for Sunday, Rex Ryan mentioned, because of that hamstring injury that he was taken out in the second quarter against New England. How much of an impact do you think that's going to have? Obviously, the Jets' defense tightened up a bit once Revis left in the second quarter. They didn't seem to have any problems, but against Miami, now that Antonio Cromartie is going to have to be on Brandon Marshall,
right.
What's it looking like as far as the impact of Darrelle Revis being out against Miami?
Well, I actually wrote that today, the Cromartie-Marshall matchup, and that's what's going to happen. That's where the impact will be felt. Instead of having Revis out there on Marshall and then having Cromartie, out there taking care of everything else, Cromartie now has to step into that number one slot, and rookie Kyle Wilson will also start, on the other side. But I think what the Jets are going to want to do is have Cromartie matched up on Marshall. Now, in some ways, obviously Revis is a special talent. He's, possibly the best defensive player in the league. However, in this particular matchup, you've got a 6'4" receiver and a 6'2" cornerback. So physically, these two guys match up well. Darrelle is a little bit shorter. He's a little bit smaller. He's got God-given talent that he makes up for not having the size. But I think in this particular matchup, that might help the Jets. They have a physical guy, a guy with the same sort of height and build. So, we'll see. And Cromartie is coming off a pretty good second half against Randy Moss. He shut him down, against the Patriots on Sunday.
Hey, Dennis, this is Timmy.
Hey.
How are you doing?
All right, how you doing?
Excellent, thank you. You just actually mentioned my point. Cromartie did an excellent job on Moss. So this whole, don't you believe his athleticism will work wonders against Brandon Marshall?
Yeah, say that again.
His athleticism, because you saw that one play where Randy Moss tried reaching around him, but because he's so athletic and so big, he can move away and force an interception. You can see that a lot working like that against Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Brandon Marshall is a guy who, his nickname is the Beast just because of his physical attributes. And I think with Cromartie's physical attributes, that's the matchup. That is a good matchup. I'm not saying that, the Jets would rather have Cromartie out there than Revis, but in a pinch, in a situation like this where they need to have somebody, this is a pretty good matchup because they do have Rex, a guy that Rex Ryan said is one of the most ridiculous athletic specimens he's ever coached in Antonio Cromartie. So, I don't think the Jets will be, that bad off, with Cromartie out there on Marshall. It's just that now Kyle Wilson will have to step up, and he doesn't have a lot of experience. So, we'll see what happens. But they wish Revis were out there, but we'll see what Cromartie can do. And that's why they brought him in here, because he's a playmaking, athletic player.
You also mentioned Kyle Wilson probably going to have to step up to be the number 2 guy. You saw the first week against Baltimore, he really got picked on. Second week against New England, he had the first play in the first half where you saw him lose his man, but as the second half picked up with him and Cromartie, they both really built some type of confidence. Has he been a little more confident in practice? Have you seen him any changes from last week to this week?
I think so. I think with each week he's going to build confidence. The more he gets out there, I think in some ways Revis holding out helped him develop. Again, it's another one of those situations where the Jets, wished he were here during training camp, but because he wasn't, it gave Kyle Wilson an opportunity to work with the first-team defense, and so he was able to go up against, starting receivers in the preseason and really work his way into, the NFL and what it's like playing in the league. So, I think in that case, he's slowly, gradually building confidence, and, this will be a big step in his progression and development. We'll see, how he does. He was supposed to be a nickelback, but now he gets thrusted into a position where he's going to start at least for a week. But again, that's why they brought Kyle Wilson in here, because they projected him as a potential shutdown cornerback down the line. It's just that he's getting the opportunity to play and start early because of the circumstances.
And we're talking to Dennis Waszak, the Associated Press beat writer for the New York Jets. And Dennis, again, thank you for coming on. We're going to leave you with this. Moving over to the offensive side of the ball, obviously Mark Sanchez bounced back last week with the 3 touchdowns, no picks against a formidable New England defense, you could say. LaDainian Tomlinson showed that he still has some gas left in the tank, not only running the ball between the tackles, but also coming out of the backfield. Do you think that this was a fluke week for the New York Jets, or do you think they could keep up this consistency, and also taking into account that Braylon Edwards is going to be in a limited role here because of perhaps disciplinary, and then Santonio Holmes coming back in a couple weeks? Where do you see the Jets offense going from here?
That's a great question, and I think that's what everybody wants to know, from the media to the fans to the Jets themselves. What is this offense? Is this I think it's in between week 1 and week 2. I think week 1, they couldn't do much worse, and week 2, Sanchez was lights out. I think, in a perfect world, they would like what happened in week 2, where, Sanchez just makes all the throws, and he was really on. I think that was the best game he's played as a Jet. Even, through the playoffs, he was terrific. But I think in that game, he was just on. He was making his reads. He was, making the right checkdowns, and he just was solid. And I think, he's not going to be like that every week, but they want him to be consistent. So, you want to see, a guy who can lead a team, who can get the offense down the field, who could lead the offense and spread the ball around. And they're still going to stick to the ground and pound, which is their philosophy, just handing it off. And I think Sean Green will eventually get more work, and he'll, be that back that people, projected him to be when they, got rid of Thomas Jones last year. But I think this, as far as Tomlinson, I think this is what you're going to see from him. You're going to see these little spurts where he, runs for 20 yards. He takes a pass out of the backfield and, on a screen or whatever, and gets, a first down and gets 9 yards here or there. I think that he's the perfect, compliment to Sean Green in that sense. And I think it's going to be somewhere in between week 1 and week 2. They just want it to be consistent and not have a repeat of the first game where the offense really couldn't do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Jets fans hoping to push week 1 as far back in their memory offensively as they possibly can. Thank you, Dennis, very much for coming on, and we'll hope to have you back soon. Thank you for coming on WSJU Radio.
Hey, you got it. I'm class of 95, so it's my pleasure to come on and, talk to you guys whenever I can.
And we're glad to have the alumni back. Thanks, Dennis.
Hey, you got it. Take care, guys.
And that was Dennis Waszak of the Associated Press. He covers the New York Jets. You can follow him on Twitter at DWAZ73, DWAZ73 for all your New York Jets updates.